Welcome to the Stockball Gaming channel, where today we're testing the Itali RSX, Itali GTO, Ocelot, Pariah, and Vysser Neo for everything you see on your screen there. We're going to start off with some drag racing here at La Porta Dragway. Each of these 4 cars is really good. Like, they should be in the supercars class, but they are the top 4 in the sports class. So we're going to test them out. We're going to see how they all stack up against each other. You got your Vysser Neo on the left, Itali RSX on the right, going to the 8th mile here first, and we've got the Itali RSX by a small margin. Both of these cars are pretty quick, but that Itali RSX is going to extend the lead to the quarter mile. So of these 2 mid-engine cars in a straight line, it's looking like the Itali RSX has the edge. As we come to the end of our race, you can see that is indeed true. So what if we put both of these Grottis up against each other? I know you guys want to see this race. It's the GTO on the left, Itali RSX on the right, and this gets pretty crazy as we get a little further into this video. But we're going to see here on our way to the 8th mile, they're both really fast. The slightest of margins goes to the Itali GTO to the 8th mile. When we get to the quarter mile there, the Itali RSX on the right closes the gap to the GTO. And now we've got a race all the way down to this half-mile line. Who's going to come in first? It's so close to a tie, but the Itali RSX is actually your winner in that race by 1/100 of a second. So very close between those two all the way to the end. Now we've got our 2 front-engine cars. Itali GTO again on the left, Pariah on the right. And this Ocelot Pariah is really good for as old as it is, but it is just 0.02 of a second slower to the 8th mile line than the Itali GTO. So can the GTO keep that pace up? It's not looking like it. That Pariah is really fast to the quarter mile, and we did see that the GTO is faster than both the Neo and the RSX to the quarter mile. So that means this Pariah is moving, and it opens the gap a considerable amount before we get there to the end of the half mile. So we've got a really fast 8th mile car in the GTO, a very, very fast half and quarter mile car in the Pariah, but really those times are so close, and it's going to set us up for some really good racing here down the line. The next thing we're going to take a look at is average speed on a custom speedway. All of these cars are really fast, and one of the things that sets the sports class apart from the supers class is top speed, but maybe not in the way that you would expect it to. The Itali RSX, GTO, Vysser Neo, and Ocelot Pariah have faster top speeds than a lot of the cars in the supers class, which makes no sense, but that's why we're here. We're going to test them. We're going to see just how fast these things are at this track, and I like to test on an oval because it is a little more realistic than just driving in a straight line forever. It gives you some interesting results too, because the props are kind of limited. When you're creating these tracks, you get some bumps and hills, and there is one car in particular that really likes it. In fact, it really likes it more than any other car in the entire game. Itali RSX 148.6, fastest I've ever gotten a car around that track. That thing loves my speedway. The Pariah 141.5 is really good. The Neo and Itali GTO are really close to each other, and they're both good cars, and we've got such a close matchup now as we head into the final portion of our testing, my test track. This is where we want to see how well do they handle and how do they put all this together on a track. It's a custom track, fairly technical, so we're looking for handling more than anything else. And we got the Itali GTO on the top, Vysser Neo on the bottom. Both of these cars are pretty quick, and the GTO will get to that first gantry first. We got a pretty decent gap. The Vysser Neo, before I tested on my new Series X, was actually the fastest of all the sports cars on this track, but something may have changed because that GTO is starting to pull ahead. What's really nice about both of these cars, I really like the handling. The Neo is really difficult though. It doesn't like it when you take shallow angles on curbs, and the GTO is starting to pull away once we get to that reverse start finish line. So can the Neo come back here? This little section should do well for the Neo because it has a little bit of extra rotation than the GTO. Might help it get around that last corner and onto this final straight, but as we head to that finish line, it does not look like it's going to catch up, and it doesn't. The Itali GTO comes out on top in our first race. A bit of a surprise for me, but now we get to see both of the Grottis together, and I know you want to see this one. We got the newish RSX on the bottom versus the GTO that we now know is faster, and by quite a bit, than the Vysser Neo here on my Xbox Series X. We get to that first gantry, these two are close, but the RSX on the bottom does have a slight edge. The RSX handles pretty well. It's kind of got the same problem as the Neo with curbs. You'll notice I avoid both of those curbs there. The GTO's got the lead now, but if we go back to the RSX, when you hit curbs at a shallow angle, it tends to bump you off the line. So you see I take the curb there on the GTO. I can't do that in the RSX. It'll throw me back out into the middle of the track. And that seems to be giving the GTO an edge so far, but now it's going to come down to a little bit more power once we go through this chicane here. You can see it upset the RSX a little bit, but I have to take more curb on the bottom. They are so close. They are neck and neck as we get to that last gantry. So now they're flying down this backstretch here. Which one's going to get there first? It's going to be the GTO by just a couple tenths of a second. Those cars are really close, but now, once again, we find ourselves with these front engine cars going at it. The Pariah on the bottom, Itali GTO on the top, and that Itali GTO, you can throw it into corners. You saw there, it slid a bit around that first hairpin, but it's really easy to do. It does get to that first gantry first. When we're talking about the Ocelot Pariah, it's a little more tricky than the GTO to handle. The GTO just sticks. It's really easy to throw around. The Pariah, you have to be a little bit more careful, and the GTO still got a slight lead. But with the Pariah, the nice thing about that is you get a little bit of extra rotation when you can handle it. So once you get used to driving it, it's really fast. And as you can see here, these two cars are really similar, but that GTO with that grip through that long sweeping corner seems to have the advantage. Now though, we know the Pariah has power. Can it turn it on, and can it get to the GTO here on our backstretch? The GTO still got a little bit of a lead, but the Pariah is going to be giving it everything it's got. Coming all the way down here, flying down to that finish line, and they are so close. Hundredths of a second separating those two at the test track, as you'll see here. We've got a 55.75 for the Pariah and a 55.78 for the Itali GTO, my bad. But, oh, those are so close. The RSX is really good too, just a couple tenths back. The Neo falls back quite a bit, so it seems like it may not be as relevant as these other three right now. It's been toward the bottom for just about every test. Now we're going to look at the speed score. If you're not familiar with it, I'll give you a card to click on to help you out, but the Itali RSX, 99.04, that's absolutely insane, and it really is only because of its average speed at my speedway. The Pariah, 98.3 is really good. The Itali GTO and Vysser Neo, both incredible at 96.6 and 96.1. All those speed scores would put them comfortably towards the top of the Supers class. So I don't know why they're in the sports class, but they're all awesome cars. This is the first time I'm going to tell you not to go off of the speed score really though. It is a little bit skewed because there's such a high speed at my speedway for the Itali RSX. The best car in this class, in my opinion, is probably the GTO. I love it, and it's so easy to drive fast consistently. The Pariah, though, it's up there too and makes it awesome. The one big disappointment for me, the Vysser Neo is now probably not very relevant. And I used to love that car. It's so good, but really, the RSX, GTO, and Pariah are still definitely at the top of the sports class. I would stick with the GTO if you can only get one. If you can get multiple, have one of each. If you want a challenge, this is the car for you. I still like the Neo. It'll always have a special place in my heart, but I wouldn't really race it anymore. It doesn't have enough strengths to make it relevant in this sports class. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more Stockboy Gaming content. If you are a subscriber, you're awesome. Thank you for your support. But regardless of who you are, thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time.